Hey, it's me, MLB. New book. Now, let me explain myself a little bit. Rapid Fate Online, the concept, was such a popular concept that I had many people asking for similar stories, but with their choice of favourite characters as main characters instead of Tamaki. So, people were asking for Midoriya, people were asking for Kaminari, people were asking for Todoroki, etc., etc. Unfortunately, though, I had already done a number of books prior to RFO with all the characters, so it kind of ruined doing an RFO version for these other characters because, you know, obviously I've got Pinpoint for Todoroki, Serendipity for Midoriya, so it just, yeah, I ruined all of that, all of those chances. But because Mirio, or Migata, for those who have listened to /Red RFO, was already quite a prominent side character in the series, I thought it fitting to do a spin-off series with him as the main character, seeing as I didn't have any books up for him yet, and thus Takedown was born. As you will remember in RFO, Mirio and Sexy Schoolgirl 69, also known as Bestie, were an item, but for plot purposes I had to break them up so that I could pair him with a new yin for his own book. I considered keeping him paired with Bestie and making her either into an OC or whatever for this book, but I wanted to make the book a little bit darker, vibes-wise. Most of my books are like really fluffy happy, so the plot just didn't fit with her crackhead energy. We love you, Bestie. Thus, I decided to start with a clean slate and do a whole new yin. There is no smut in this book. What? MLB, are you feeling okay? So the book has no skipped parts. Yay! There are some intense scenes close to the beginning of the book, somewhere kind of early middle of the book, and at the end. I've tried to keep the gore and shock to a minimum, but image-wise it still might be a little bit creepy, just depending on what your imagination conjures up. Also, if you have arachnophobia, fear of spiders, maybe don't listen to this story. Fair warning. So without further ado, let's get to it. This is Takedown Mirio X Female Listener. Here is chapter 1 of Takedown, and this one is titled Blessed. You were amazing. Your quirk was amazing. Everything about you was perfect. Yin, honey, where are you? Your mother called out down the hall. I'm in here, Mummy, your 4-year-old voice called back to her. Where is here? She called again. I'm in the Puda room, you called merrily back. What are you doing in here, sweets? She asked as she walked into the study. I'm fixing Daddy's Puda, you said proudly, turning to look at her as you held your finger against the side of his laptop. How are you fixing it, sweetheart? Your mum asked curiously. With my quirk, you replied excitedly, pulling your index finger away from the computer and showing it to her. She screamed. Honey, why is the end of your finger a USB? Because it's my quirk, Mummy, you replied with a strange expression on your face. I need to call your father, your mum said quickly as she turned and raced out of the room. And that's how your family found out about your quirk. Your quirk, software code, was a top-of-the-line quirk. It allowed you to create programs from scratch and detect flaws in software and correct them or erase them, all by using your index fingertip, which was shaped like a USB drive. Once you had plugged yourself in, you would then be able to connect directly into that computer space and your brain would do the rest. Anything you could think of would be converted into code and downloaded via your finger that was plugged into the side of the computer or laptop. The minute your mum told your father about your quirk, he enrolled you in a specialised computer literacy course to hone your skills. This course was designed for ages 4 and up. On your first day of this course, you detected a bug in the principal's computer and promptly fixed it, and thus were immediately moved to the next grade up. You were considered a geek, spelt G-I-Q, which stood for Gifted in Quirk, and you easily passed every computer exam and constantly corrected teachers whenever they got something computer-related wrong. As you grew and got to know your quirk better, you looked for all the flaws that you could, but as far as you knew, there were no drawbacks to your quirk. By age 9, you had completed the computer literacy course with honours and was immediately headhunted by robotics and computer research centres around the globe. By your current age, you are head of the Robotics and Artificial Intelligence branch at Japan's leading research centre. You had won every conceivable award relating to computers and technics, and you were basically unbeatable. Everyone respected you, treated you like a god. It was lovely. But then rumours started going around that there was someone else who was just as smart and talented as you. Someone in the same field of work as you too. What? Surely not. You and you alone were to stand at the top of the tier. What if they took your place? You had to do something about this. But what? So you did the only logical thing that you could think of. Use your quirk. You were aiming to make the first sentient artificial intelligence robot of its kind. If successful, this kind of breakthrough could win you the Nobel Prize or something of that calibre. Professor Lin, we are ready to commence testing on AI 1, your right-hand assistant Hansu said as he entered your office. You smiled excitedly and stood up. Okay, let's do this, you replied, rubbing your hands together enthusiastically as you followed him out of your office and then stepped into the clinical room where your AI sat on a chair in the centre, their head hanging low as their form remained void of life. You closed the sealed door behind you and glanced at your team of scientists who stood watching from behind a glass panel, all smiling encouragingly at you. You beamed back at them. Purposefully you strode across the white clinical flooring to the empty chair that was across from your AI and sat down in it before reaching across and plugging your finger into the end of their index finger. You closed your eyes and focused on starting up their program. As you heard the program within them jolt to life, you opened your eyes and your AI opened theirs, raising their head to look at you. Their movements were very fluid and natural, identical to the movements of a real human. You smiled brightly. Soft applause from your team could be heard from behind the glass, and your AI looked across at them. So you can hear, you commented to your AI. That's a good sign. Who are you? They asked bluntly, turning their head back to look at you. Hi, you said happily. I'm your creator. They stared at you with a deadpan expression. Creator? They asked. Yes, I'm the one who made you. You are an artificial intelligence life form, the pinnacle of my work, you said proudly. Not only are you extremely lifelike, but you are also a learning AI. To what extent you will learn is unknown to us, but we're excited to find out, you added gleefully. Your AI studied you silently, and a knot formed in your stomach as their eyes took you in. That's an intense look, you commented sheepishly, with a hollow laugh as their eyes narrowed slightly. Where am I? They asked. You're in my lab, you replied happily. This is where I created you. You created me? They asked. Why? You heard a rustle of whispers go through the scientists who were observing from outside the glass window, each scientist looking at the other and muttering their thoughts and questions. Oh wow, that's a deep question straight up, you thought in a panic as you glanced across at them. Well, I guess this AI is programmed straight from me, so their intelligence level is greater than that of ordinary AIs. You looked back at your AI. Well, Goha, that's your name too, by the way. I've created you so that we can study sentient robotics and see where it could take us in the future. You have a very important role, you said with a smile, leaning forward to touch your hand to theirs to show a small amount of affection. I look forward to working with you. Goha looked down at your hand on top of theirs and blinked a few times before moving their hand away from underneath your touch slowly. Thank you, but I'm not comfortable with your touch, they said plainly, but in a soft tone. And there is the end of chapter 1. Stay tuned for chapter 2 coming tomorrow.